Welcome to Chapter 2. We are going to look at different types of data approaches and technologies at different levels. At the national level, this includes national databases and monitoring systems, indexes, rankings, and indicators. Then we have specific initiatives and innovations that focus on identifying missing learners, as well as those help increase connectivities in areas that remain unreached. National Education Monitoring Information Systems. The most well-known national database is the National Education Monitoring Information System, more commonly known as EMIS, a system for collecting, integrating, processing, maintaining, and disseminating data and information. EMIS is especially useful in supporting decision-making through management and administration, education planning, policy formulation, monitoring, and evaluation in educational systems. But even though EMIS focuses on the national level, it simply cannot be functioned without the local being involved. This is because the very source of data is at the local level. It is collected in schools and local education authorities and then sent to the regional or national level. By gathering information at the local level, it becomes possible to observe patterns either at the national level or uncover issues that are specific to one geographic area. Without this information, it is difficult to make informed policy decisions at the national or local levels or find out how to best serve the needs of specific learners. One of the requirements regarding equity is for EMIS to include indicators that target vulnerable groups that can inform decisions to reduce disparities. These indicators can include collecting data on students' household income, parents' occupation, health records, as well as ethnicity, language, and identity status. One successful example is found in Fiji, which operates a sophisticated system known as FEMIS that has not only improved efficiency but also equity. Here, FEMIS includes a specific model on disaster risk management where important information on disaster risk vulnerable schools and their localities are organized and integrated within the system to support preparedness plans. It also includes disaggregated data on learners with disabilities. Learners that suffer from physical disabilities, learning difficulties, or social, emotional, or behavioral issues can fill in student learning profile so that their learning can be tracked. The disability disaggregation package even includes specific guidelines for the collection of data in student learning profiles so that they can be verified and considered at the national level for necessary support and resources. This case shows us how incredibly powerful it can be in increasing equity when specific indicators and measures are considered for learners from vulnerable groups, indexes, rankings, and indicators for equity. Another way to use data to recognize and increase equity in education is by having indexes, rankings, indicators that are equity focused. This might be international, national, or even regional, but what they all have in common is the ability to set a certain standard of which consider equitable and then hold a sense of accountability for that standards. For example, a country would want to show that they meet the minimum standard when compared against others in an international index, ranking, or enriching indicators. In the case of education, we can think of UNESCO benchmarking process for SDG 4, where countries establish their own national benchmarks to monitor their progress towards SDG 4 and increase accountability towards reaching this ambitious goal by 2030. The same applies at the local or regional level when compared against other states or districts, which creates a sense of accountability. Let's have a look at some examples. An index is defined in this context as a ratio that is calculated based on certain observations. For example, The UNDP's Human Development Index provides a measure of human development by country, which puts the human at the center. It includes the 3 dimensions, which each have their own index, one of them being education index. Indicators that are used here include the expected and mean years of schooling. UNICEF's Data Must Speak initiative also bring an interesting example from Nepal, whose education equity strategy included a composite education equity index at districts and sub-district level based on EMIS and population census data. The index, which focuses on education access, survival, and learning, focus on 3 aspects. First, context, a learner's household income, family size, or whether they had a disability. Second, resources, materials, teachers, and infrastructure. Third, outcomes, obtaining the school learning certificate or equity in outcomes by gender. A final example is one we visited in Module 3 of this course, the Equity Index in New Zealand, which aims to identify and respond to socio-economic barriers and inform the allocation of resources. Most importantly, the model behind index focuses on socio-economic factors that impact student achievement and the characteristics of students based on data cohorts of children from the last 20 years. Rankings involve measuring a certain standard and then rank different participants based on their score. The most well-known educational ranking is the Program for International Student Assessment, known as PISA, which is run by the OECD every 3 to 4 years in selected countries. PISA's definition of equity is rooted in equal learning opportunities for all learners regardless of their background and gives the example of the impact of students' socio-economic status on their performance as an indicator of equity. Another example is the World Bank Gini coefficient of education, which aims to address inequity in education, providing a ranking of 146 countries. Finally, an example of national ranking is found in India, where an education equity ranking is released showing the results from different states in the country. Indicators in this context are the criteria or variables that can help assess how far an aspect of education is equitable or not. For SDG 4 Target 5, which is specifically about equity, the indicator consists of parity indexes by gender, wealth, rural, urban, disability status, indigenous, and conflict-affected people. How data and technologies can help us identify missing learners. Now that we have a clear idea of the big picture when it comes to approaches to data, we can start to zoom in to find out how data and technologies can help us identify missing learners. Thailand's ISEE initiative is a data platform designed to increase equity in education, combining edtech, big data, and user-centered virtualization tools. It ensures that data is regularly updated and that data is presented in a way that is practical and easy to use for education stakeholders. Self-proclaimed as a form of data activism, ISEE connects multiple data sources, which helps to address the barrier of scattered data that we also observed in the previous chapter of this module. Its approach is equitable education through symmetrical data, whereby more information is collected on children that are vulnerable in order to give them equal opportunities, including through the use of geographical information system to inform their needs and ensure follow-up. Forecasting the risk of school dropouts, particularly for at-risk groups, is relevant here as well. Thanks to technologies such as machine learning, research from Vietnam shows that it is possible to predict the risk of high school dropouts early on, therefore helping educators to design interventions and solutions. Based on a data set of over 10,000 students and 800 dropouts, the model was developed and showed just over 80% accuracy in its predictions, reaching the unreached through connectivity. Technological advancements now allow for people to be more connected than ever before, showing huge potential for reaching learners in remote or rural areas with low connectivity to access equal education opportunities. One of these examples is the Google Balloon that can provide internet access through 4G LET connection supported by solar-powered mobile network equipment. They were initially used in Puerto Rico following Hurricane Maria and were deployed in 2020 in Kenya to reach underprivileged neighborhoods. Great potential is also being found in 5G as a solution to providing connectivity to rural areas. For example, in India, where the Department of Telecom, DOT, has been working on an action plan for installment of 5G wireless service in the hope of reducing the digital divide. Another example is found in broadband internet provided by satellite. Satellite's ADSL is working to remove barriers to satellite connectivity through its organization NASAC. The ECO program to bring internet to rural schools in Africa shows a promising model where communities can buy credits and satellite broadband is provided to school thanks to solar panel Wi-Fi systems. This shows us a reason to be greatly optimistic about the new technologies that are being developed in order to increase connectivities in schools. Overall, we can see just how powerful a role of data and technology can play in identifying those that are most vulnerable, understanding their needs, and then serving their needs with the best possible solutions and interventions. Whether we are working at the national or local level, everyone has a role to play in contributing towards these efforts, whether in terms of data collection, awareness raising, or advocacy. The evidence is that data and technology will be the key to making education more equitable in the future.